Good afternoon, and welcome. Now, there's a couple of things what I am disappointed about. One is about England not getting to the final and everything. You know, those poor Argentinas, they were, oh, got to be careful what I'm saying on here. They were cheating, weren't they? And also, you know, about Kevin Keegan. And a few times I met Kevin, and a lovely bloke to speak to. And I hope everybody gets on. All the family, I'll send them best wishes. Now we got Susan Leon. Susan, how are you?
Good, thank you. It's still a little warm, but yeah, it's that not PTK. It's that expression, isn't it? Where I like it warm, but not this warm, and we're all getting ready for a little bit of cool. Actually, the farmers are struggling too now because the hay, they're having to use the winter hay because the grass hasn't been growing enough. So we kind of do a little bit of cooler weather, really, but I'm good otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. Today we're talking about self-love, and you're going to let us know about some tips, 10 tips on self-love, and what is self-love?
Well, I think it's important to take time to think about how we set ourselves up. What's our attitude as we're approaching situations? I mean, if we're going through life on an even keel, then we kind of maybe don't really think about it too much. If our home life, our job, our finances, social life, all these health, all those different areas are functioning quite well, then oftentimes we really don't think about our life. We're just on cruise control. But every now and again, it's important to think about how we're navigating our way through life, how much responsibility we're taking for our own situation. And, I put together a few thoughts on ways that perhaps we can stop and think about what we're doing, how we're talking to ourselves, how we're setting ourselves up for success or failure, and how we're become more resilient as a consequence of that, I guess.
Yeah. It's I was reading what you were saying about kind of learn to say no. And a while back, we were talking about that. I think it's about a year ago now, or before that. Learn to say no. That's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll start. Yeah, I mean, I think first one before we get to that though is to practice reasonable self-talk. So yeah, saying yes, saying no appropriately are important, but I think how we actually talk to ourselves sets ourselves up into a proper frame of mind, because oftentimes in life we have what I call life rules, which are, they're not government legislation, but they might as well be, because they're indelibly etched in our conscious, in our psyche. So how we talk to ourselves is very important. A lot of us have these rules that we don't even think about, like people like us. People like us aren't, we can't expect more out of life. We can't expect better. We can't expect to get there or succeed in that way. Man up's another one. Man up and, behave like a bloke or whatever. And all of these phrases can color how we respond and react to situations. So how we talk to ourselves has an incredible bearing, because actually when we speak, we're hearing our own words. If we say things out loud, I mean, a lot of people, when they're doing these, seminars and things, will say, speak your affirmations, speak your statements out loud, because we actually hear them. We internalize what we're actually saying. So, yeah, I'm rubbish, I can't do that. Even if we're joking, our unconscious mind still hears it. So be very careful how we say things. I'll say to clients when they say, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't, I can't drive, I can't be successful. I'll always say, add the word yet at the end, because if we say I can't do that yet, it takes away the complete inevitability of me never being able to do this ever again. And so sometimes qualifying what we're saying by putting the word yet at the end allows it to become a temporary situation rather than a permanent state of mind. So practice how you talk to yourselves, and aim to undo years and years and years of perhaps negative conditioning about a certain mindset. I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic, and there can be an awful lot of guilt attached to that, where you're not supposed to ask for anything for yourself. You're not supposed to necessarily do things. That's certainly the way I was raised. And so sometimes overcoming that kind of approach, that kind of mindset, can take a little bit of undoing, and we can go through a whole guilt process as we're working through that. But it's an important step to take, and to actually be mindful about how you do talk to yourself. And as I say, qualify it by perhaps adding a yet at the end, or something at the end which isn't quite so immovable a situation for you.
Really, it's like being nice to yourself, really, isn't it? It's being,
yeah. Treat yourself would you treat somebody else? Would you talk to somebody else the way you talk to yourself? And oftentimes the answer is very much no. We're often crueler, we're often harsher with ourselves than we ever would be to anybody else. So absolutely, what you're saying is so true. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sometimes I don't talk to myself or sing to myself because I love singing, but then I get dirty looks afterwards. So I'm thinking, why is that? And I said, but it's good to talk to yourself, and because it gives you kind of like, it beefs you up, and it gives you encouragement and say, you can do this, you can do this. That's what I used to say to myself.
I think singing to yourself gives a lift as well. I mean, music is an incredibly important therapeutic tool. So if you're singing to yourself, no matter how, whether it's to an audience or in the shower, it's that whole thing about lifting yourself with music and raising your mood, and whatever you're singing is often going to be a lighter touch. So it's a nice way to start the day. It's a nice way to work through things that you're doing. Definitely. Yeah.
On the other hand, if you ask her what, she'll say, no, stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So these 10 tips to practice self-love, how can we kind of like put these into our head and make them work and put them into practice?
Well, I've just done the first one, which is practice reasonable ways of talking to yourself. So, not being ludicrous, I'm the most gorgeous person on the planet. A lot of people might find that a jarring phrase to use, but if we say, I'm working towards becoming better, I'm toning myself up, I'm feeling more positive, looking in the mirror and thinking, well done, you're looking okay. I did a job this morning, a handiwork job that I wouldn't normally have tackled, and I did it, and I persevered, and I did it well, and I went, well done, Susan. And so sometimes just actually thinking about how we talk to ourselves, how we treat ourselves, is a great first step. Second step, of course, is to do things that you do well. So if we're in the middle of doing a load of stuff that we're not very good at or not very experienced at yet, then do something in the mix of that, in the middle of that you actually know you can do quite well. And it might be something as simple as baking a cake, or helping someone, or weeding a patch of the garden, or whatever it might be, but where you can do something, do it, and feel positive, feeling that you've achieved something as a consequence. So that's another step, building things that we into our reservoir of successes that we feel good about. And I think if we do something that we do well, or at the end of the day stop and think, what have I done today that was good, that was successful, that was positive, we can actually again reinforce how we're feeling about ourselves. For some people, they might be in the midst of quite a difficult situation, a divorce or a health situation, or they might be having struggles in a work environment or at home. And sometimes we can feel that everything around us is collapsing or a waste of our time. But if we actually stop and pause and do something like bake a cake or phone a friend and give them some positive encouragement or support, those little touches can make us feel that we have got pinpoints, vignettes in our day that are successful, that are achievable, that are positive, and that again can help us feel that we are on the right track and that we have got a light at the end of the tunnel. If there's light at the end of the tunnel, you're moving in the right direction, and that is a positive way to progress, really.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be hard, can it?
Yeah, absolutely. But even things like just arriving in plenty of time to get somewhere, or offering somebody a lift or something, these things can be steps that another person feels good about, and we feel good because we've helped them and we've done it well, and it can be a really important thing, that links in with all of that. A third thing, of course, is to encourage others. While we're talking about that, encourage others to appreciate us, because often we'll go, doesn't matter, don't think about it, it's nothing, it's no effort, I did it easily. But other people, something that we do very easily, other people might find a real challenge. I've just sent, I've just had a correspondence today with my accountant. For them, it's dead easy. For me, I think, oh God, it take me ages. I'll send off all my books and things, but them sending the whole tax return off and what have you, I just think, oh, thank goodness somebody else has done it. And so we can, and we need sometimes to say, appreciate what I've done for you, even if it's just ironing a couple of shirts, or it is just picking somebody up and giving them a lift, or it is cleaning the windows or whatever, reminding other people what we've actually done. And not always every day, but every now and again, just giving somebody a nudge to say, this is what I've done, and, appreciate what I'm doing. And we don't need to ask for it in quite such solid terms, but actually encouraging other people to be supportive, appreciative of us is an important thing to do. So that we're giving, we're asking for, the difference between conditional and unconditional praise. Conditional is, that's really great, I hope you do it again like that in the future. That's conditional, there's conditions attached. But if we just get, thank you, that was brilliant, I really appreciate it, full stop, whether we're giving it to others or receiving it ourselves, either way, there's a big difference in how those two experiences feel. Somebody saying, thank you very much, I hope you'll always be like that, isn't quite as good a feel to it as somebody saying, thanks very much, I really appreciated what you've done.
Yeah.
So being aware of how these things feel and encouraging other people to be supportive of us, appreciative of us, respect us, value what we're doing, value our offering, whether it's a boss or a member of the family or whatever it might be. These things make a difference. But we, Eleanor Roosevelt, and I've said this to you before, Eleanor Roosevelt said, we teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us. So if we're giving people unspoken tacit permission to just discard what we do, then it's partly our responsibility. And so sometimes just stopping and pausing and saying, did you enjoy that? Was that good for you? Did you notice, or some variation on that, can make a huge difference to their appreciation and their valuing of us and what we do.
Yeah, and our daily lives too, when we're putting it into practice. Totally agree. Be gracious in accepting praise. Now, this is one of my bugbears. It's like if I'm doing something and someone, kind of like giving me praise, I'll say, "Don't be stupid." No. I'm one of those people.
And that can put people off being complimentary. Sometimes a simple thank you very much, that was nice of you, is far more gracious, far more accepting. And again, as I said a minute ago, women tend to shrug off compliments because that's what they do. They automatically do the chores or the shopping or running the household or whatever. That's often their default position. Men just shrug it off and move on and don't really, all right, and sometimes being gracious and accepting thanks, accepting appreciation allows other people to pause and acknowledge your role in a situation, whether it's it's important. Sometimes, somebody's saying you look lovely, oh, this old thing, or, I got it in a charity shop or whatever. Doesn't matter. Just say thank you. Don't need to explain ourselves. We don't need to be coy about it. We can just say, thank you very much. That's really nice of you. I appreciate it. And same time with men, doing a job or whatever, we might not notice. I mean, my friend of mine was really good. I'd say to him, the curtain's not hanging right or whatever. And next time I walked past, it was done. And he never said anything. And sometimes I might not have noticed. But when I did notice, I made a point of saying, thank you so much. That was really great. And people feel better, don't they? It's all right. I've been noticed. And it makes a huge difference to how we feel, because it boosts us. And we all want a bit of acknowledgement. We all want a bit of appreciation. So being gracious about accepting that is an important part of that process.
You mentioned women in the beginning. I found that interesting because they are kind of like, in my house certainly, they are head of the house, and they do quite a lot, watching. They do quite a bit, and to me, when you say to your wife, oh, thank you for everything you do, sometimes they carry on. Why is that? Why don't they take that appreciation? Is it because they know that they're a woman and it's no, got to be careful with what I'm saying. Thinking, well, this is their job or whatever.
Well, possibly, but I if that's the case, then there's no, it's good for you to carry on appreciating that. There's no point arguing and saying, oh, don't be like that or whatever. Just sometimes carrying on and saying, no, I really do value what you do. I really do appreciate this particular thing you've done for me, or you've done for the household, or whatever, or you're very good at that, or I love the way you do this. The various ways that we can give thanks and show our appreciation. And sometimes people will struggle to accept it, and that might be to do with their background. It might be to do with they're not really used to getting that kind of acknowledgement. But it doesn't mean we stop. It just means that we allow them to know that, as far as we're concerned, we really value what they're doing and their role in our lives, and how good that, how much we value their commitment.
Yeah. How about the next one, about tackle the overwhelmed and break through into. Sorry, my glasses are steamed up.
Well, getting over the overwhelm is in a sense, it's like you were just saying a minute ago about the women in your house. Sometimes that there might be situations where we feel everything's down to us. So we might have a load of things. We're organising a special event at home. Maybe it's a birthday party. There's a lot of work going on at the house. We might have renovations or whatever going on. We might have an elderly parent to care for. We might have a busy job or children or whatever. It can be various aspects of our lives that all seem to converge at the same time. And sometimes we can just feel, oh my goodness me, my head's going to explode. But actually, if we stop and pause for a second and maybe write down, list everything that's on our mind and that we feel is in the in tray to do, we might realize that rarely do all of those things need doing today, right now. And so first of all, if we can write everything down, and I do suggest writing with a pen and paper, because you connect better with your neural pathways. But if you write everything down, first of all, it clarifies. I'm not going to forget anything because it's all down here on paper, so I can breathe and I know that I'm not going to forget things. And then go through and prioritize what needs to happen. Now, some of those jobs on that list might be, several components to them. There might be, I need to write to somebody, and then I need to get permission, and then I need to get some acknowledgement, and I need to get quotes in. There might be half a dozen elements to one particular point. And so if we start actioning each of those things in turn and know that we're perhaps going to have to wait a some time, a week or maybe more, to get some feedback on that, then start actioning those things, and then know that you've bought yourself a bit of a breather because you're having to wait and you've got that in motion. So, a lot of things don't need to be done straight away. And also, we might be putting ourselves under a perfectionist mindset. Oh my goodness, I've got to do this properly. And if it's not done well, there's going to be, I'm going to look bad or whatever. And sometimes we can just take a bit of a breather and allow ourselves to take things steady and, as I say, start actioning things, which links in with building your team. Because if point 6 is to actually say, okay, I've got a lot of things in my in tray that need doing that I feel are all down to me. But if I actually start delegating and inviting other people in and allowing other people to help, and even the children can set the table or fold their laundry or tidy the bedroom enough that's good enough, then building a team and allowing ourselves to be helped a bit, even if it's not to our standards, takes some of the pressure off and actually helps other people feel that they are appreciated too. So you're doing them a favor by including them in and helping build their self-esteem a bit as well.
Yeah. We'll skip to the learn to say no. Ask for help. Sometimes, we don't want to ask for help because we feel kind of like, I feel like, why should I ask for help? I do it myself because, it doesn't, I just find it hard to ask for help sometimes.
But there is a sense that sometimes, a gorgeous example is somebody who's self-employed. Somebody who's self-employed might be perfect at what they actually do. So it might be, I don't know, social media, it might be accounts, it might be whatever it is they're doing, baking cakes or something. They might be perfect at what they do, but they're no good necessarily at all those other things. And those can be a real bog you down type approach to what the situation is, which can be, again, going back to overwhelm, but to some extent, needing to build your team to actually help you through it. So appreciating that sometimes other people are better at an aspect of something. You might take, I could take days and weeks agonizing, as I mentioned earlier, about over my accounts perhaps. But if I speak to my accountant, they've done it in 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or I've had 1 or 2 issues with my computer, with my software. I couldn't download a document, so I got in touch with my guy, and he just said, "Oh, yeah, right, yeah, and it was done in less than 2 minutes on a phone call. And I could have spent hours and hours and hours fiddling around with different buttons and probably half deleting my work and then wondering where I was up to. And so sometimes allowing ourselves to build a team, maybe pay somebody to do something. And even if we're paying, I don't know, a cleaner or a gardener or something, or somebody to prepare meals or whatever, sometimes the time that we free up as a consequence of paying somebody else is worth the money, because we might be paying somebody and we go and have a walk, or we go to the gym, or we go out for a coffee with a friend. That might be a really valuable expense because it frees you up and it gives you some space in your life, and you realize life isn't all about work. And sometimes spending our money that we've earned on things that we want to do, to free ourselves up to do something else, is a valuable thing to do. So in a sense, that is worth building a team, allowing people who are better at something to do it. And as a consequence of that, that's great. But equally, as you say, learning to say no appropriately fits in with that too, where sometimes we have got so conditioned, as you were saying before, sometimes women are so conditioned to feel bad, to feel guilty, to feel less than if they don't say yes all the time. And so learning to say no doesn't have to be rude. Learning to say no can be done politely, can be done sensitively. I've said before, lots of little phrases that can be used that say no beautifully, like, it's not a good time for me right now, or leave it with me, or I'll have to think about it and get back to you, or whatever. Sometimes those little phrases are a polite way of saying no, get lost, but they're done with a bit more sensitivity, and learning to say no at the right, at the right time, in the right way, can be a positive step, because again, it pushes the other person back a bit to think about what they're asking you to do and about your role in their life.
Yeah, I totally agree. Take time out. Yes, very important.
Absolutely, because it helps stop overwhelm, and it helps you feel more positive about what you're doing, and it helps you buy a bit of space. And as I say, a big thing is about teaching other people that you're not 100% available 100% of the time, which they can. We teach people how to treat us. We can have taught people perhaps that we're always available, that we feel guilty if we're not always available. But sometimes, if we want to be good to ourselves and treat ourselves right, we have to re-educate the people in our lives to fit that as well. And that links in, as you said before, about asking for help. So expecting other people to be psychic is something a lot of couples do. You should have known that I wouldn't want to do that, or you should have known that I wouldn't like that, or you should have known that I prefer this to that. Why should I have known that? Sometimes if we don't communicate properly, or we just drop subtle hints or something, sometimes we need to be a little bit more what I call adult. Adulting is about taking ownership, taking responsibility for how you feel and what you want and what you allow in your life. And so sometimes we need to say what we're wanting, how we feel. What would you like to do at the weekend? Oh, I don't mind, you decide. Or whatever you want to do is fine. And then we do it, and then we're a bit miserable, or a bit sulky, or a bit whatever, grumpy, because we're not doing what we wanted to do, or they didn't know we'd want to watch the football, or whatever, or go somewhere, or we'd mentioned vaguely, obliquely, that it was our friend's birthday and they were going to the local wine bar or something. And so, but if we don't flag up that, this is coming up and I'd like to do it, and can we fit it in the diary? Sometimes the other person's relieved that we've given some input, because oftentimes it can be that one person in a relationship is a person who always decides, and I hear it many a time. I have to decide everything that happens in our relationship is down to me. It's exhausting. It's exhausting having to organize it, to think about it.
Yeah. Do you hear that in? I know you're not allowed to say anything, but do you hear that a lot? Yeah.
I mean, I find it's oftentimes the blokes who will say, I mean, when I do couples counselling, often the blokes will say, it's down to me to organise everything. And maybe, you see, the problem is initially, I know when I first got married, that I loved playing house. The first 2 or 3 years, I don't think I cooked the same meal twice. And I was working full time. I had a responsible job in management. But at the same time, I was loving playing house. And then after a while, you start thinking, goodness me. But we reap what we sow. We make a rod for our own back. And those phrases are tried and tested phrases for a reason, because people use them a lot, and that's the truth of it. If we set a situation in place and we say, oh, I'll do it, leave it with me. I remember I worked with a couple who, the girl came to see me, and she was recently married, and great relationship, just the two of them. And every weekend, her partner used to follow her around and say, come on, they lived in a beautiful little apartment, and he'd follow her around saying, what can I do? And she said, I want the cleaning done to my standards. So after a while, he just got fed up. I mean, why wouldn't he? After a while, he just got fed up, and he'd been saying to her, look, you're spending all day Saturday cleaning and what have you, and can't we just spend half a day doing that and have the rest of the time and maybe go out for lunch or go for a bit of a walk or go somewhere? And he'd be saying, oh, no, that the house, the place has to be clean and I have to do every room properly. And I said to her, okay, how would it be if half the flat was cleaned to your standards once a fortnight and half the flat was cleaned to his standards once a fortnight? And would that be okay for you? So that once a fortnight you'd know it was properly cleaned, but in between times it was clean good enough. She said, that'd be perfect. I said, okay, well, one weekend you do it, you do half the rooms, and then the following weekend you do the other half of the rooms. And it hadn't occurred to her, but it worked out. So it's good enough. I mean, and the working full time and all the rest of it. But sometimes we just have to let go of the need to be perfect and allow things, because she was completely disenfranchising her partner. He was then, in 12 months' time, she'd be coming to me saying, I've got a lazy husband who does nothing and expects me to do everything. But she's actually completely discouraged him from taking any part in anything at all. And he's tried and tried and tried, and eventually goes, okay, I'll leave it with you, mate, So, yeah, absolutely. So listening, asking for help, and being responsible for our own happiness is important. But equally, so is taking some time out as well. So making space in our diary so that we have time to go for a walk, to enjoy each other's company, to enjoy a relationship, to think about the kind of breaks that you'd like to have, and making sure that you give due process, give you time to sorting those out is an important thing to do as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Learn to say yes.
Yeah.
Too at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. We can sometimes scare ourselves a little if somebody says, would you like to? Do you want to, something we've not perhaps thought about doing, or we've not done for a while, hiking, doing the 3 peaks, or swimming a marathon or something. And we can maybe scare ourselves a bit to death. But sometimes saying yes and stepping outside of our comfort zone can be titillating, scary, exhilarating, fearsome for a while. But that is a way of extending our horizons, because if we, and again, I've said this before, if we stay in our comfort zone indefinitely, our comfort zone gets smaller and smaller and smaller, because we could become more and more used to it, more and more familiar with it. So sometimes just pushing our boundaries a little bit and having a go and doing something that we've not done before can be scary, but can be fantastic. And actually, it's often amazing that if we start something that is impossible, I found many a time, if we start something that's impossible, it's amazing how unexpectedly other doors seem to open that make that impossible thing possible. So it can be a really good thing to have a go, because it's amazing how things oftentimes step up and open up that make those impossible things possible. So that can be a really good thing to do as well.
Brilliant. Self-love, engages at all different elements of your life. Yes. Actually, when it with this one, yeah, I found when I was reading it, I found it tough. Because it's saying, self-love, engages all the different elements of your life. And I'm thinking, is that everything in your life?
Is that everything in your life?
Yes.
Well, I think, as I said before, we teach people how to treat us. And I think if we are, the only thing we can manage, the only thing we can necessarily control with 100% certainty is our own approach, our own response to it. So if we are, to some extent, happy within ourselves and we're confident with ourselves, which is what we're talking about today, then how other people behave, whatever else is going on around us, we can be fairly insulated against it. We can be resilient, we can cope, we can contend with it, because, if we're in a good place, right, if we're in a good place and somebody's rude to us or hurtful or offensive, if we're in a good place, we might shrug, we might not even notice. We might smile and go, oh, what's your problem, or something like that. But if we're in a really bad place and the same situation happens, we may collapse in tears. It may completely destroy us for the rest of the day or the week or even the month. So if we're in a good place, we cope better, we're more resilient, we're more positive. things, negative things don't necessarily touch us because we believe in ourselves. We've surrounded ourselves with a good team. We've got some positive things lined up. We're feeling competent, capable. Even if everything isn't necessarily going our way, we realize that this will pass, negative things pass, positive things pass, but we're on a road to improving our lives, we're on a road to getting to where we're going, and we make sure we've got good things in our diary booked in, or we've got people around us, or whatever. So yes, I think everything in our lives factors in, but our approach to those things and how much we insulate ourselves and inure ourselves, all these things can be down to us and how we behave, and that's our approach is crucial to that. And looking after ourselves, practicing good sleep hygiene, taking exercise, being careful with our diet, having good friends, making sure we listen, all these things help us feel stronger, more capable, healthier, more viable, more rested, and more able to tackle whatever comes our way in life. And so, yes, the things around us are important, but if we treat ourselves well, then we're in a better position to cope and to bounce back again in a better, more positive way.
Brilliant, brilliant. Really, really good season. I love everything what you say and what you do, and all the I like all your blogs and everything, and it's been a pleasure. We're not back till September now, guys. We're going to take a little break, but I'd like to thank Susan, Lee, and the others as well. And it's too many of them to say, but we have learnt a lot about life issues, and I certainly have, and I think, and I just like to say thank you to everybody who's been on here and who's put up with me. It's, but most of all, for Susan coming on, because she is very, very busy, and I really appreciate her. And hopefully, guys, we'll try to persuade her to get back on in September, but not very often, but now and again. In the meantime, guys, don't forget, you know, in the morning, if you speak to somebody, say hello, smile, and just ask if they're okay. Then in the evening, just say good night, smile, and that's it really. Because we all deserve the same, don't we? A peaceful life. Thank you. Bye for now.
My pleasure.